Hallo, mi dita, bonjour, buongiorno, hi. The talk I'm giving today is about creativity. What is creativity and what can be developed in higher education? I developed this talk for a group of educators in higher education who work on entrepreneurship. So, you teachers. And the interesting thing is that we have very different definitions of creativity. And we needed a common working definition in this training week with the educators. So we engaged them in a little brain writing exercise. And the task was that they group in groups of up to 5 people and work for 120 seconds or 2 minutes on a common definition of what they think creativity is. Next, they handed their definition, which they had written on a paper, to the neighboring table, the neighboring group, and they got their definition. And again, for 120 seconds or 2 minutes, they worked on their final definition of creativity. Now they could reject the definition they received from the other table, adapt it, or adopt it and present it. The idea behind was that we collect all different ideas in the room that were there on creativity in order to find a common starting point. And what we found was very interesting. We basically saw 2 components in the definition that emerged. One was the process, the creative process, and it was characterized, according to the educators, by showing a combination or a recombination of different areas of knowledge, of different products, dynamic process, activities, actions, thinking. The second part was on the creative output. And in there we saw 2 groups of components of definitions or attributes. One was around the novelty, newness, originality of an output, and one was on the usefulness, appropriateness, and how well it fitted with the constraints, or it used the constraints that existed. And this came quite close to the definition that we had in mind, except for one thing that was missing, and that was ability. Creativity needs abilities to emerge, and these reside in individuals. Now, there are many different study approaches to understand creativity, and you may have encountered those already in your studies, or you may want to investigate a little bit. There's one theory that we used in our training, and this is looking at the investment bit of creativity. It was developed by 2 guys, Sternberg and Lubbert, in the early 90s, and they called it the investment theory of creativity. And it is all centered around an individual who has, and I now use my own words, a magnifying glass in the hand to notice things that others may not notice. And she or he has a flag in his hand and can raise it very high, so a lot of people see it and they find it cool. This is the creative individual that Sternberg and Lubbert have in their mind for their investment theory. And basically this individual can buy low and sell high. So what is needed for this? There are 6 dimensions in this theory that need confluence. So they have to interact. They're distinct, but they are interrelations. And the first one are intellectual abilities. And you see basically 3 here: the synthetic ability, the analytic ability, and the practical contextual ability. While the synthetic ability means that you see a certain issue from very different perspectives. You are able to do this. And you can escape conventional thinking. Now the second ability, the analytic ability, is that you are able to decide which ideas should go on the flag and which you should get rid of. And the third one is the practical contextual ability. And here you can persuade others that they should look at the flag and sell the product you're advertising there. Now, you may know that there is individual level creativity and group level creativity. And there's a difference in between, because not all ideas that reside in an individual or emerge from an individual are picked up by a group. And if you give a group, let's say, 15 ideas, and they should select the 5 ones they think are most novel, they really fulfill the label of being creative. Do you think they would choose the most novel ones? No, they would choose the ones who are most practical, usable, who were on our second bit in the output area, what I mentioned before as the definition that we got from the educators. So why is this? Why don't we go for the novel things, but we always have this lens or this filter of we need to have it being useful? Well, that's something I can't develop in this talk, but it's interesting to go and have a look of what you find out there. Second, knowledge. Well, you have the idea of something, but you need the relevant knowledge to understand, domain relevant knowledge to understand what really is in an idea. But again, there is the risk that you limit yourself by being too close in your own domain. So it's good to be open and to look into different domains. Then we have the thinking styles. And here we basically have 3 different thinking styles in this theory, the investment theory by Lubbert and Sternberg. And there are 3 styles, and they are like the branches in government. You may know this from some other lectures. And these is the legislative style, the executive style, and the judiciary style. And the one that is most relevant for creativity is the legislative style. Here you think in original terms. You create something from something existing, but you develop it up to a new, novel, original level. There's personality, which is very, very important. And the only one on the list here I would like to delve a little bit into is self-efficacy. I think that creativity is in all of us. It just depends on whether we would like to recognize it. And so self-efficacy means that you can appreciate the ideas you have in your side. You feel courageous of developing them. You want to share them with others. You would like to pick up ideas from others and ideally develop it with them. And there is motivation. Most of the motivation related to a creative individual is intrinsic. It lies in inside you. But there's also the environment which allows creativity to emerge. So if you don't have a creative environment, then it may not work that you can be creative. As a group, you can be creative, and you can come up with a creative output. Now, this talk was developed, as I said, for educators. What I wanted the educators to understand were 3 points. If they design methods to raise creativity in the students, it's important that there is awareness that the impact of creativity methods goes beyond the momentary impact. So it's important to consider the future impact on you as employees, on you as entrepreneurs in being innovative. But it's not just that you should be innovative either on an individual level or on a group level. It's important that you learn how to repeat the techniques you learned, improve them, use them in order to contribute to the emergence of a creative climate. And finally, promoting creativity is not related only to the study outcomes or learning outcomes in the very course or in the entrepreneurship course or in the future, it also has an impact on your learning achievements in other areas of your study. So embrace creativity, it's inside you, and go for it. Thank you very much.